And I could never understand why people were so happy. I'm like, why is everybody so happy? Like, why am I so miserable? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why is it I cannot get up every morning without crying? Or why is it I can't, you know, make friends without thinking that they don't like me or that I'm not invited to things? Or what's my deal? And I thought I had a problem. If I look back on my life from the outside in, you will be like, why are you depressed? Like, what's real problem? You have money, you have a family that loves you. What are you stressing about? Like, what's the deal? You know? When a man did come along that really cared and really wanted to love me and look after me and be there for me, I didn't know how to be with that. I found it so difficult. You know, I would say, oh, I need space, or I need time, or I need this, or I need that. I just need you to, I just couldn't deal with it because I didn't think I was deserving enough of that. What are you searching for? I don't know. I'm searching for the truth. I think I know that there's a truth that and when I bump up against it, I'll know it. And boom, it showed up for me. And I knew that I could finally stop searching.
Let my honesty spill out through the pages.
You're listening to Escaping the Rat Race. I'm your host, Amy Leo, a singer-songwriter and mental health educator. And our show is all about questioning the status quo and pushing the boundaries into what's possible for human beings and not probable. So tune in and get ready to escape the rat race, not only the monotonous 9-to-5 work grind, but also that incessant internal mental chatter that prevents most of us humans from experiencing more joy, peace, clarity, and freedom.
If you could just introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do and how you came across the principles.
I was at the verge of packing the business that I was doing in 4 years ago, actually. And I had written a best-selling book, and on the outside in, it looked like my life was great, but on the inside out, on the inside, I didn't feel so wonderful. Now, I'd been in personal development for quite a while. I'd been through a divorce in 2007 and had decided, and that was I was in New York at the time, and I decided to go back to Spain because I'm half Spanish to work in the music industry. I'd been given a job then. But as time went by, I realized that probably Madrid wasn't the best place for the music industry, and that actually going back to the UK would be my best shot. I was looking for a job, and I basically had already started I'd been to one workshop on relationships, and it really blew my mind. And one of the interviews that I had for this music industry job, he gave me a ticket to go to see Christopher Howard. Christopher Howard at the time was an NLP trainer. He would fill a massive room, huge places of about 1,000 people to go and see him. And that was the start of my personal development journey. So I had been in this industry for quite a while. And I'd done, I've done every, like NLP, different methods. I was a real seeker. I'd become sort of like a seminar junkie, really. It was one seminar to the next, to the next, to the next. And, and people are like, oh, hi, Marina. Hi, Marina. I was very well known on the scene because it was something that I would do a lot of. It was coming from a place of, I need more. Must be more, must be more, there must be more, there must be more, there must be more. And what I hadn't seen was that same insecurity was fueling my life, in my business, in my relationship to my second ex-husband now. So at the time, I was coaching women to overcome heartbreak, but I wasn't doing very well. I hadn't got that many clients. I spent a lot of my time stressing about the fact that I didn't have any clients. I spent a lot of time writing, though. I created a lot of content, which never got me paid, but has had dividends in the end. But at the time, it felt like I was on a hamster on a wheel. Like I would pay somebody to give me the best marketing plan, or I'd pay someone to tell me what I needed to do in my business for it to work. And nothing was working. In fact, I think every day I would tell my ex-husband, oh, I'm done. I don't want to be part of this industry anymore. There's no point. I never get anywhere. I'm not really making an impact. And. Anyway, funnily enough, there was 2 women that I met a few months previously. So this was January of 2013. And they talked about somebody called Jamie Smart. I didn't know Jamie at the time. I knew he'd been doing some work with different people in the UK, but I didn't know his work. And in March of 2015, I kept seeing this book called Clarity that kept on coming up on Facebook. And I was getting really annoyed because, first of all, I decided I'd had enough of personal development. I wasn't going to pay anything to anybody ever again because I was done and it didn't fucking work.
Yeah.
And the second thing was like, oh my God, like how annoying that I didn't come up with a strategy for my book. Anyway, and so the story went on and on. But I got curious, and actually the quote that he put up on his feed was the quote that stopped me in my tracks, and which I now share with my clients, which is a Sydney Banks quote, which is, in this game of life, we all search for ourselves. And when I talk about the self, I'm talking about the inner self, the very thing that created life in the first place. So if you're looking for happiness, if you're looking for tranquility, if you're looking just for a loving and understanding life, what you're really searching for is yourself. And what I heard in that was, I'm not searching for money. I'm not searching for a business that's going to work. I'm not searching for fame. I'm not searching for becoming, best-selling author. I'm not searching for any of the material things or any of the situations and circumstances I thought I was searching for. What I had in that was that I was just searching for myself. And that did something for me. But at the time I looked at it and then just went on with my day. But it perked up my curiosity. And I got curious about Jamie and I got curious about his work. And so I went onto his website and had a look. And at the time, I think he was offering like some sort of coaching, here are like 12 spaces. I can coach you for free, blah, 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 whatever. So I decided to go for it. And it was application only. So I applied, knowing full well I was never going to pay him the full price that he wanted. But I just thought, I'm curious enough to want to know more about this understanding. So I get on the call and I talk to him about the fact that my business is failing. I talk to him about the fact that I've got this massive database that doesn't want to buy from me. And instead of giving me a solution, he starts talking to me about where I think my experience is coming from. And I'm like, didn't understand it. I wanted a concrete answer. I'm like, dude, like, can you just give me a concrete answer? You're supposed to be a really good coach and you're not giving me an answer. You're just talking in riddles. And we got off the call and I was like, well, that was really unuseful. Why is he such a big deal? Anyway, I walked down the stairs. I started to make myself a cup of tea in the kitchen. And what I suddenly heard was, my life is great as it is. But the thing that keeps getting in the way is me thinking that somehow it needs to be better. And I was like, whoa. So what I heard was that the thing that keeps me stuck is the very thought that I need to make my life be better. And that really did something for me. And I can't remember whether I thought that the coaching course had anything to do with it. But from there on in, I started to have insights. And I didn't know what they were called at the time. I'd been in personal transformation, blah, blah, blah. And I got the book. And from that, I then went to his workshop. And it was funny because when I said I wasn't going to do any more work with anybody, I also heard, yes, you are. You're going to spend a lot of money with this man. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm done. And in the end, I did. I started his clarity program. I then decided I was going to have him as my coach for 1 year. And I signed him up as my coach. And then I was introduced to, the community, which I never knew existed. And the quality of life just has gone from like what I could have considered to be a 2 or a 3 to a 10, and beyond that. Like, I don't know how good it can get, because I'm still always going to be having insights until the day I die, and even then I don't know how good it can get, because apparently we just go home. That's pretty cool. So I don't know how good it can get, but I know that my quality of life has got so much better, and my life has become so much more beautiful than it used to be. Well, nothing on the outside has changed. Everything on the inside has. And I say it hasn't changed, but it has changed because of who I'm being and how I'm showing up. And the quality of people that come into my life, as opposed to the quality of people that came into my life beforehand. So I wasn't really introduced. It was introduced to me via whatever you want to call it, universal intelligence. But I did ask for it, because I remember somebody saying to me, what are you searching for, months before I came across the understanding? And I said, I don't know, I'm searching for the truth. I know that there's a truth and when I bump up against it, I'll know it. And boom, it showed up for me, and I knew that I could finally stop searching. And this is someone who has gone through bouts of depression, somebody who had attempted to commit suicide a couple of times, who had eating disorders, who used alcohol to numb herself, who would sleep with lots of men to feel lovable. I had so many habits that actually were innocent, but that were not healthy for me. And over time, in the last 4 years, I've seen all of that just disappear.
There's a very touching authenticity that I'm just picking up on. I'm almost like I put my hand on my heart. The humanity of your story. My gosh.
For me, if I look back on my life, from the outside in, you will be like, why are you depressed? Like, what's real problem? You have money, you have a family that loves you. What are you stressing about? Like, what's the deal? Yeah. So like, I came from a violent family. It doesn't, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about, we had money. I came from a good background. I had very loving parents. Maybe not present parents, but loving ones. I had a loving family. So what's the deal? Well, I don't know what the deal was, but possibly that I was a very sensitive child and I took everything on board, and I still do. Like, when people give me feedback, I take it on board. I really listen, and I want to do the best that I can, but I use it against myself. So when it came to about the age of 13, I was already pretty much set up for, if I got teased or if I got bullied and I was bullied and I bullied, I just thought that what people were saying about me was true, and I took it on and just took it out on myself. So it's been an unlearning of all of that crap that was hanging out inside of me for so many years. And I could never understand why people were so happy. I'm like, why is everybody so happy? Like, why am I so miserable? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, why is it I cannot get up every morning without crying? Or why is it I can't, you know, make friends without thinking that they don't like me or that I'm not invited to things? Or what's my deal? And I thought I had a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. It never ceases to amaze me just how the cultural tale of, you know, believing that someone else can do something to us really shows up in so many ways, and really it affects us. It's I'd love to hear a little bit more, because of the research I have to do on relationships. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it was like for you before. And I realize it's kind of a loaded question because, of course, you aren't in the past, but if you can humor us, me. You know, what was it like in relationships before? You know, you mentioned this piece of looking for love and lovability and desirability through other people. And that's something I come across a lot in my work and in these conversations. And, you know, can you speak to that? Was there any fear that you had of being alone? You know, what were some of the processes, if you can remember, or thinking that you had then?
Well, they were innocent, but looking back, I'm like, they make no sense anymore to me, which I think is a really big part of this journey, is on things that used to make sense don't make sense anymore. I used to pick men that were a challenge to be with, because somebody that was easy to be with would mean that was easy. Like, that it was almost like I had to prove to myself that I was lovable enough by picking men that weren't going to love me. But I'd make them fall in love with me, which would mean that I was lovable. So, you know, the usual like playboys, or the usual men that really didn't care. But when a man did come along that really cared and really wanted to love me and look after me and be there for me, I didn't know how to be with that. I found it so difficult. You know, I would say, oh, I need space, or I need time, or I need this, or I need that. I just need you to, I just couldn't deal with it, because I didn't think I was deserving enough of that. It was too boring. Or it was, I love the excitement, you know, the hot Latino, or all of that going on. But to just be in a calm, collected relationship with a man, that was too boring for me. Like, I couldn't understand why anybody would want that. It's a bit like hanging out with your family. Of course they're going to love you. Well, that's cheating, right? Weird, like so weird. But, you know, you don't see it until you see it.
Yeah.
So the choice of man, well, there are two things that I want to speak to. The first thing is, I had a huge insight not very long ago when my relationship to my now ex-husband broke down, which was actually just middle of November. And my insight was this: I had chosen men that I didn't have to be intimate with. Every single relationship I've ever been in manifested some man I didn't have to be intimate with. Whether that would be emotionally or physically, or it was too scary for me to get that close, because I didn't want to get hurt. So when I lost my virginity, I lost it in what would be considered a very non-princess type way. It definitely wasn't a Hollywood moment for me. I met this guy. I was 15 years old, and you know, this is the first guy that paid me any sort of attention. You can imagine, right? I was super sensitive. I thought the world worked outside in, and I really liked this guy. So much so that I went to his it can't have been a christening. It was something that was happening when he was 16 years old. Went to his house in Kent, and we had dinner. His parents were there. He had dinner, and I went to bed, and he came to say goodnight, and he basically said, I'll be back later, and he did, and I consented. And then he left back to his room. Well, the next day, he completely ignored me, wouldn't even look at me, wouldn't even say 2 words to me. And I said I was fine, but I wasn't. I wasn't at all. You know, to me, that had been such a massive letdown. And it just proved that I was unlovable. And I hadn't realized how that had impacted me until about a year and a bit ago, where I realized that that moment was the moment I decided that I was never going to be intimate with a man again. And so it would play out in every single relationship I'd ever have. He either would drink too much, he would, I was anorexic for a while, so I would definitely not, I would just be like, no, this is too uncomfortable for me, I'm not going to go there. I would get drunk, he would get drunk. It was too dangerous otherwise. And it was only until I got into the relationship with now my husband, well, ex-husband, that I started to realize that I had loads of sexual hang-ups. Like loads. And because at the beginning of the relationship with my ex-husband, I would have to drink to actually have sex still. And over time, that just dropped away. Over time, I realized that I didn't have to have it, that it was safe enough for me to have physical intimacy without needing any kind of alcohol or any kind of drugs to help me with this. And what was interesting was that my ex-husband, well, we have preferences, right? All of us have preferences. We have different preferences of what we like, what we don't like, and that sort of thing. And we just weren't compatible in that area. But once again, I picked a man I didn't have to be intimate with. And then it suddenly hit me one night, on the night, and one of the nights where I was just really bawling my eyes out and just going, oh my God, I can't believe it's all my fault. You know, the usual thing of like, it's my fault, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I should have seen this before. And what I got to see is that every single relationship that I'd ever been in was just a representation of that fear. And that actually, I saw every single relationship fold on itself. It was really crazy. It was like boom, 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 boom. And it was like, oh my God, I thought the fear was letting me know about intimacy. All these years, I thought the fear was letting me know about intimacy, how shit I was at, how dangerous it was, how this, how blah, 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 blah. Only to realize that the fear was just the state of mind I was in and not the thing itself. And that I'd been playing out these future scenarios in my head about, based on past, based on a reference point that had already been, that was already a memory, but taking me into the future of how dreadful it was all going to be if I did let myself, because girls like me don't do things like that. So this opened up a moment of experimentation for me that I'd never experienced before. It hadn't even occurred to me that I might enjoy it. Hadn't even dawned on me that it might be fun. It hadn't even dawned on me it might be playful. It hadn't even dawned on me that I tend to be really curious about all of the areas of life apart from this one, apart from the sexual side of me. So yes, the relationships have got better. The type of man that I would go for now is very different to the type of man that I used to go for, which is a player. You know, they used to be players, they used to be exciting. But both my husbands that I've had that have been with me have been very kind and gentle human beings. Big hearts. First one was still not ready yet. With Mark, yeah, I was ready. I was ready to expand in it. And I would never, you know, every single relationship I ended was with an affair. I cheated on them. With the very man that was completely not right for me, the player, you know. But with Mark, I did, and I didn't end it. He ended it. And I would never have gone down that road. And it occurred to me, oh, my habits and relationships have got a lot better. Like, I wouldn't take that thought seriously anymore. Just like the difference between somebody that kills someone that doesn't, right? It's like, I'm going to kill him, but you don't. But there's somebody that does do that.
Yeah.
Well, that was the same for me. I thought I want an affair, or I want to get out of here, or that's exciting for me. I thought I had to listen to that because I didn't realize it was thought. So it's been interesting because this understanding has helped me see through a lot of my illusions that I had about relationships and intimacy, and I feel so much lighter. And I don't know how it's going to be because I'm currently in a situation where it's funny, like it's really funny. I say that to you, but I'm going out on a date in a week's time with someone that I was introduced to by somebody else. We haven't met personally, but he wants to meet up. And I'm curious about this because I've been living with this understanding now for the last 4 years in a marriage. I haven't been living it outside of that. But I'm curious to see what I attract as opposed to what it used to be like, because I know what I would love. And the qualities that I'm looking for are very different to the qualities that used to be important for me in the past. But at the same time, I'm curious to see who I am with this understanding. And at the same time, I'm in awe of the fact that how quickly things can happen in such a short space of time. You know, in the old paradigm of things, it's like, oh, you need at least 5, you need at least 10 years to be on your own before you can date anybody. Otherwise, it means that you're not happy on your own. And I get the value of being on your own. I get the value of me not being in a relationship at the moment. And I'm really happy with that. But I'm also absolutely amazed how quickly things have happened. Like, it's been November, December, January, February, March, December, 4 months. And the state of mind that I'm in is like as if back in the day, 2 or 3 years had passed. They call time as a healer.
That's a really interesting point to bring up, or to shine a light on that traditional kind of advice, and kind of see in this case that, well, that's not objectively true.
No, right? And you can be from one minute to the next in a completely different reality. But you know what's funny was I played out a scenario in my head about how I was going to feel the day I walked into the door and Mark had left. Because we lived together for about 3 months after we decided that it wasn't working. And I played the scenario so often in my head, and I was almost like, oh, I need people here so that I don't feel a certain way, right? Anyway, I got back from the UK and I walked through the door and I felt nothing. In the sense it wasn't numb, I just didn't feel the feelings I thought I would feel. I didn't break down, I didn't get upset, I just felt completely at peace. So what that showed to me was that it really isn't from the outside in. It's all our experiences coming from us. But yeah, there was a huge roller coaster ride going on from about mid-December through to the mid-February. I was really sick and I kept on getting chest infections and colds, and but the relationship that I now have with Mark is one of, what occurred to me was that just because we're not married doesn't mean that we can't actually have an incredible relationship. So weird to think that, like, oh, we're not married anymore, I hate you, we can create whatever we want. And it dawned on me that now we have a son together, that what is it I would love to create with Mark? Like, okay, fair enough, our marriage didn't work out, but it doesn't mean that we can't co-parent in a way that works for us and works for Leo, and we can't have a really good relationship. Like, there are no rules here. And in fact, business-wise, we don't have a business together, but we're working together on some projects. So that's what I got to see is that I can still have a great relationship with my ex-husband, but it doesn't have to look a certain way for it to be great. If that makes sense. Like, I don't have to be married to have a great relationship with him. It's like we name and label things in relationships, and they're just labels. They're not anything concrete. It doesn't mean anything. What I do see is the nature of thought playing out. Moments of insecurity, moments of peace and connection, moments of insecurity, moment of peace, connection, regardless of whether you're married or not.
That's so true. Yeah.
So yeah, we have moments where we're like, but we would have them anyway. But then we blame the marriage, right? It's like, oh, it's because we're married. No. It's because we were really feeling very insecure in that moment. It's got nothing to do with the marriage.
Preach it, sister. Yeah, seriously. That's one theme that I am picking up on, is that, again, buying into this cultural myth.
Yeah, totally.
Being complete means being married or being with another person, as if they are the solution, as if you won't take your humanity with you.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Like, how have we all fallen so asleep to that? Now, granted, we have been inundated since the small age. I mean, certainly in my culture for sure in the States, you know, in books you read, songs. I'm a singer-songwriter myself. So it's like every song I hear on the radio, I can't breathe without you. Well, yeah, you can. I mean, not to be like harsh, but again, kind of this real fabrication of again, yeah, looking for another person in order to feel loved. I mean, it's amazing in how many areas we do that, right? It's like we're infinitely creative in the ways we manifest that same delusion. Like what you said, I could totally relate to the business piece, you know, totally, you know, again, looking for something in order to quote unquote be better. And that is definitely a pattern I've seen with people in traditional self-help, you know, friends of mine or colleagues of mine that really feel it's not okay for them to have a low state of mind. So they've got to do a technique right away in order to skirt that discomfort.
Well, I guess it, you know, the whole self-improvement label makes it look like it's improvement, but improvement on who and what?
Yeah.
It's part of being human. We're going to have moments where we feel like shit, and the moments where we feel great, and the moments where we cry, and it's all part of experiencing life. And those moments we want to get out of the way that we feel, well, that's just thinking as well, right? So that's just more insecurity. But what I get to see more and more with the work that I do, which is really about working with women specifically, really, in business, to help them create space and help them slow down and breathe and stop so that they can really listen to their intuition. And they can really own who they are, in the sense that they're able to have a better quality of life, is that the space has everything follow after it. So it's not that you feel like contentment if you have this and this and this. You have love because of this and this and this. It's who you're being that creates everything else. So it's like, I'm content, I'm love, and things seem to manifest on the outside like that. But it's not the other way around. We were talking about it yesterday, and it was like difference between a desire and dream. You know, a desire and a dream, and the desire being, you know, what the Buddhists call suffering, right? So the desire to do this, or the desire to do that, or the desire to be in a relationship with somebody when you're not, the desire to have somebody look after you, but they're not looking after you. What it suggests is that you don't have everything you already need. When we do, because we are what we seek. We think we're searching for love. We think we're searching for the person to save us. We think we're searching for that one thing. But what we don't see is the thing we're searching for is ourselves. So it's not, we don't have to leave it up to fate or the stars or none of that, because actually we already have what we're searching for.
Well, I know we're running a little short on time. Is there anything else that you would want to share, maybe, Marina? You know, keeping in mind that these are going to be folks that probably are in the midst of either separation or divorce. Is there anything else that you would want to share today?
One of the things that I think, especially if they've got kids, one of the things that, a lot of people say is, oh, what a shame, you're getting divorced with the children, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think that's true. In fact, I think it's really about the quality of divorce will make a difference to the child or not. So if two people are constantly fighting at home, that environment isn't necessarily going to be the best environment for the child. If two people fighting because of the divorce, once again, that's not necessarily the best environment for the child. It happens, sure. But rather than fixating on what's right for me and what's right for you, there's a common ground that I think parents, and I'm not saying, maybe there are people out there that say, well, he doesn't give a shit about my son or whatever. But if this resonates at all, then I don't know, maybe it will be of help, is to really focus on how you can make it work for your kids. In other words, when Mark and I are making decisions, we kind of go, well, is this the best thing for Leo? Is this the best thing for Leo? Is this the best thing for him? What do you think the best thing might be for him? As opposed to it being, well, what's the best thing for me? What's the best thing for me? Because sometimes we don't see eye to eye in that, but we can, and if we don't see eye to eye on what's best for Leo, we still manage to come to some sort of an agreement, because we both have his intention at heart, best intention at heart. So that would be the first thing I would say. And secondly, is that no matter what the other person has done or that you've done, you're not your behaviors. We're not our behaviors, because our behaviors can change in an instant, because behaviors are just patterns of thinking, patterns of behavior, patterns of thinking. They're an outcome of the thinking that we're in. So, I don't know, shouting, screaming, that's a behavior. That comes from insecure thought. Responding and getting quiet and curious, that's as a response to our thinking. We're not our thinking, we're not our bodies. We need those two things in order for us to experience life on this plane, but we're not those things. If we were, then there wouldn't be any chance for us to change. So go beyond, if you can, the behavior. I remember one of the, and see if you can listen and get curious. One of the things that one of the stories I tell about an ex of mine is that he was really angry at how our relationship ended. I was still going through my phase of cheating, and he was really, really, really unhappy about that. And we hadn't spoken to each other for about 6 months, but then I called him and we decided to go skiing together, and we went out for a drink that night. And we were having a really great time, and then he got insecure and then just belted at me like what a bitch I'd been, blah, 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 blah. And rather than reacting, I just heard, be quiet and listen. So I did. And I just listened and I got present. And what I heard is throughout all the tirade, what I was hearing was, I was scared and you left me. And what I got to hear was, C was a little boy who was just scared. And after a while, the energy had nowhere else to go because I wasn't fueling it. I wasn't kind of coming back with some sort of retort. And then after a bit, he just finished. And then we both went quiet. And I found myself saying, wow, that must have been so difficult. I'm so sorry. And my heart went out to him. And we got back into a beautiful feeling.
What I hear from that story is a reflection of understanding and what made sense for you to do, right? And tuning into your own inner voice or inner GPS system, we could call it. You were coming from that place. That's a really different place to come from than taking, the advice of, I should listen when people are yelling, or kind of like more ego feeding thoughts that I see a lot in the personal development community of, being unconditionally loving, quote unquote. But I think what's so beautiful, what you shared it, is that at least I'm assuming none of that showed up, but then again, I don't know. But again, that it was just an extension of understanding versus trying to force a moment to be a certain way. You know what I'm trying to get at? Like trying to force you to calm down so then you could be okay.
Yeah. But I've got to see time and time again that when I've had disagreements, and sometimes you just do it because you're in that knee-jerk reaction, and we do it because we're human. But I've got to see that the leverage that you can create for yourself and the other person when you're both in a good feeling is a much better starting point. Like, my ex-husband and I would have lots of disagreements, and at one point I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't work for us. I think we need to come back and revisit this conversation when we're both feeling a little bit more calm. And so we would revisit the conversation in a very different state of mind, and we'd always come up with some crazy ideas or create solutions, or
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me that it's never about what you're talking about that's difficult. It's the state of mind that you're in that makes it difficult. We think that we can't talk about money, or we can't talk about kids, or we can't talk about the affair, or we can't talk about all of those things because apparently they give us a feeling. But what makes it difficult and a difficult conversation to have is the state of mind that we're having the conversation in. It's never about the subject matter. So what if we were less, what if we didn't need to take conversations so seriously? What if we could come to them with lightheartedness and love? Instead of this very serious. Because we stop communicating because we believe that our feelings are coming from what the other person has said or not said. When in actual fact, our feelings can't come from any of those things. It's just coming through thought. We're gripped by the movie. And we're all movie makers at the end of the day. We create so many movies in our heads about the other person, about who they are and about who they're not, about what they should do, about what they shouldn't do. But we can always speak to what's behind the mask. We can always communicate from soul to soul. We don't need to communicate from ego to ego if we don't want to. And I see it more and more as find it really difficult to communicate and come up with something that's worthwhile when we're both in our ego. It's really difficult. So difficult because you're both defending your own realities. And so when you're on defense, it's like there is no penetration. Or if there is, you want to kill each other. As opposed to listening and getting curious about what the other person means. and how what they're saying might have something to do with what you're saying, but you're just not hearing it because you're so consumed by the insecurity that you have. I remember one of my stories, and it makes it really difficult for you to hear what the other person is saying because you only hear your story, was, "You're criticizing me. Like, stop being so mean, you're criticizing me." That's what I would hear. When the other person is actually not criticizing you, not being mean, they're just, what they're attempting to do is sharing with you how they feel. But we all have habits of behavior. We all have habits that are unhealthy for us. But I think to be in a healthy relationship, or at least to have health, is to certainly see a lot of your insecure thinking just fall away naturally by keep looking in this direction.
Well, fantastic. I have so enjoyed speaking with you. I'm so glad that we got put in touch. Marina, I really, really enjoyed it. I actually, of course, I have these articles as an assignment, and I also do host a radio show. And at some point, I would love to put together a series on folks and their experience and the principles. Would you be okay with me sharing your story there?
Sure.
Great.
I'm an absolute media whore, so you can share your story anywhere.
Fantastic. So what I'll do then, I'll just have you share where people can reach you.
I have a group on Facebook called the Kick-Ass Effortless Women in Business Group. So they can reach me there. They can join the group, or at Marina Pearson, marinapearson.com. I've got a website there too. So that's how they can reach me.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes. Of course, I'll let you know, when you can expect to tune in and things like that. This has just been so lovely. And so I'm really enjoying building business from such an organic, inspired place. Like in the past, I'd had all this thinking about putting up a post or asking to speak with people, or like trying to prove my quote unquote, worth as a coach. I used to have all types of weird thinking like that, like I can prove I have a 3P understanding. And what's been so lovely is just showing up and just listening to people's experience. And it's so inspiring. So I'll definitely let you know what we put together for this series. I think it definitely needs to come out into the world.
It's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you. It really has, and I'm really glad that Philippe put us in contact.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure we'll cross paths again. So again, thank you so much, Marina. Have a wonderful week, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
All right, my lovely. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Marina. Kelly, it is time for another one of Amy's real stories, so cue the drum roll, please. We do not need magic to transform our world. We carry all of the power we need inside ourselves already. We have the power to imagine better. So this week's real story is woman goes from receiving welfare benefits to becoming one of the best-selling authors in modern history within a 5-year time period. So this is a true rags to riches story, and you probably have already heard of her story. Her name is J.K. Rowling, or at least that's the author name that this gal goes by. And what I think is interesting is that initially the Harry Potter book, the first one, was actually rejected from 12 publishing houses. Further, she was a single mother writing out of cafes because, as reported, that was one of the only ways to get her
newborn baby to fall asleep was to actually go for walks. So she would bring the baby to cafes and write. And I just really enjoy this story. I know it's already known, but it highlights what can happen when someone takes his or her creative ideas seriously and takes action on them instead of listing all the reasons why they can't do something. I also find it very comical that J.K. Rowling was even advised to get a day job when she finally did get a publishing company to agree to publish Philosopher's Stone, and now she has the honor of being the all-time best-selling author of a book series to date. In closing, there's a Tony Robbins quote that has always stuck with me, and it goes something along the lines of this: the defining factor for success is never resources, it's resourcefulness. And that sounds at first maybe very trite, because people do deal with real world challenges like lack of money, lack of time, being a single parent, feeling like you're too old. But the fact of the matter is, we all have these innate emotional states that are incredibly powerful, such as creativity, love, passion, determination. When a person values that over focusing on all of the extraneous variables, all the reasons why it can't work or it won't work, it's amazing what begins to happen with the subconscious mind, how everything starts to get directed with a clear focus. And all of a sudden, more creative ideas come up of things that you haven't tried or haven't thought of to do yet in the pursuit of whatever it is that you're looking to do. So that's certainly a philosophy that we live by here at Escaping the Rat Race. Again, we are going to change the title of our show soon, but we're not going anywhere in the sense of we love creating podcasts and sharing these real stories. If you want to ensure you don't miss an episode and you want to look back at all our previous episodes, we've got some really amazing examples of being resourceful as opposed to looking always for resources from the outside in. You can check us out by typing into your search engine on however you subscribe to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. If you type in the search engine, Escaping the Rat Race with Amy Leo, click subscribe. You're going to see our whole library of past episodes. We have been going strong for a year now. My goodness, a little over a year. It's amazing. With that, next week, we are going to be talking with Tiffany Parker. It is an amazing real story. It's actually a real story we've already shared, but now we're going to have her share her testimony through her own words. She's battled a chronic debilitating condition. She's been releasing music, sharing what she's seen about being human and the propensity to overcome even extremely difficult physical challenges. And through basically a miracle. I mean, it's not with logic or reason that we would think it's possible, but she just had a baby as well, even when her body was having such difficulty, and the baby is really healthy. So tune in next week. We're going to be speaking again with Tiffany Parker, beautiful singer-songwriter as well. She's going to share one of her tunes with us. Until next time, my name is Amy Leo. Thank you so much for listening. Keep rocking.